Most SaaS companies don't realize their SEO agency is failing them until about 6 months into a campaign. Traffic is climbing, the domain rating is rising, the report lands every month. And then one day, someone asks in the board meeting, how much pipeline came from organic? And nobody has an answer. The problem is most CMOs don't know the right questions to ask. They're basing their decision of which agency to use off credentials, case studies, and of course, the price. But the questions that should be asked that reveal whether an agency can actually understand your business and help you are often overlooked. In this video, I'm going to give you 7 of them. These aren't trick questions, they're diagnostic. A good agency will answer every single one of them confidently and specifically, whereas an agency that is still optimizing for the old playbook and the wrong scoreboard, they're going to struggle with your questions. By the end of this video, you're going to understand exactly which side of that categorization your agency falls into and what you can do about it. The first 2 questions are about your links, and not how many you have, but where they are and what they mean. Most agencies will talk to you about link volume counts and domain rating. These criteria will skip right past both of them. The first question on this list is, what percentage of our links are in publications that our ICP would actually read? So this is the question that exposes really how your agency thinks, whether they're just looking for DR and link volume or traffic to a page, or what they really care about is the relevance criteria and actually building semantically related links that help Google and help machines to understand your website. So volume of a domain and DR looks good on a slide, but what actually matters is the relevancy of the link. So I'm going to give you a concrete example of this. So say you are running a therapy practice management software. Your target market is therapists and psychologists. They're looking for this clinical software to use for their company. Your ICP could be a licensed psychologist who runs her own small practice, or maybe a small practice with 3 or 4 practitioners in the team who are looking for different use cases. Maybe they want to manage appointments, billing, invoicing, tech, without actually having to employ a full technology team or to take someone in-house. So they're going to just use a software to outsource this part of them. Ultimately, it's going to save them a cost. So this is your ICP. That's the important part. And then you've got to ask yourself, where are our buyers living? What do our buyers actually read? And in this example, it could be Psychology Today. And the second question you have to ask is, which commercial pages are important to us and which commercial pages are actually receiving authority signals? So typically a lot of agencies will focus on building links to your blogs, and that's because it's much easier to get links to the blogs, and it often makes sense in the context of an article to link to an informational resource. The other approach is directly just linking to the homepage over and over again, but the problem is that the homepage isn't always where your users are landing, and it's not where they always convert. So you've got to think about what use case pages you have, your integrations pages, your features pages, and actually building authority signals to them pages too. You should be in a position where each page is optimized for one specific keyword. So back to the therapy management example, they might have pages such as insurance billing page, they might have a clinical notes page, they might have a therapy management practice software page, and they might have a use case page for clinical psychologists. And having this level of page infrastructure is a really great thing for the website, and it means that you have a lot of topical authority, and it means that you have the right sort of pages that are aimed at the right sort of potential buyers. But then pages aren't going to rank themselves. And unless you're like a huge established brand, you're not going to just rank by launching a new service page. You're actually going to need to build links to them pages. And the thing is, these pages are actively where someone's going to land on the page, they're going to read through some information, they're going to understand about your solution, and then they might book a demo, or they might even just sign up for a free trial or for a full plan if they trust you enough. And also, these pages are exactly what's going to be getting referenced by an LLM. So if your agency can't answer these 2 questions specifically and confidently around this strategy, then it's likely they're building links for their own internal dashboard rather than for your bottom line revenue and for your commercial advancement as a company. Questions 3 and 4 go even deeper into this. If you're asking yourself these questions now after watching this video and thinking, oh wow, we've never considered these questions before, and you're worried to ask your agency because you think you're not going to like the answers, then I'm here to tell you about the diagnostic we run at Emgi. We look at your keyword mix, link profile, your actual ICP buyer behavior, and we run a quick diagnostic to see how visible you are in traditional search and AI search. We do that in just 15 to 30 minutes on a call. It's free value, and you can just book a call with us via the link in the description of this video. Questions 3 and 4 are about where you're showing up and how you're showing up. This is where most agencies unintentionally reveal that they're optimizing purely for search volume rather than buying intent. So the third question you should be asking your agency is, are we optimizing for buyer intent or are we optimizing just for search volume? Are the people searching this term buying or are they just evaluating information? So for the purpose of this video, and I think we can put this up on screen, I'm going to just read through a few examples now of actual keywords and their data. So these are some practice management SaaS examples and the actual search volumes and keyword difficulty numbers. So we've got the data here using data for SEO, and I'm just going to read a few examples. Practice management software, it gets 6,600 searches a month. It's got a keyword difficulty of 74. Simple practice alternatives, it's got a very low keyword difficulty, but gets approximately 90 searches a month. Therapy notes software, it's getting around 260 searches a month, and it has a keyword difficulty of 65. So look at the contrast here. Practice management software gets 6,600 searches, but it's got a very difficult keyword difficulty score. So it sounds amazing in a pitch deck, but you're going to be competing against incumbents in the category who have a ton of money behind their brands. Also, the problem here is a lot of people are going to simply be learning and not ready to make a buying decision. So when you actually view that search volume, you shouldn't be viewing it as 6,600 ready buyers. You should just view it as what it is, 6,600 monthly searches. Now look at the keyword best practice management software for psychologists. It only gets 70 searches a month just by adding this keyword best in front. A junior strategist in an SEO agency is going to often overlook this opportunity and think, okay, it only gets 70 searches a month, therefore it's not a good keyword that we should be targeting. We should be optimizing for the therapy practice management software keyword that gets significantly more traffic. But the thing with someone who's searching this keyword with the best in front of it is the intent is completely different. They're not just looking for information, they've got their credit card in their hands and they're ready to make a buying decision on this right now, or at least in the next few days. Also, the simple practice alternatives keyword, that only gets 90 searches a month, but it's got a keyword difficulty that requires only 2 or 3 backlinks to break into the top ranking positions. It's easy to rank for, and the intent here is also really high. This is people who are likely customers of Simple Practice already, or at least are aware of Simple Practice and believe there is a better alternative in the market for their needs. That is quite literally the most qualified traffic on the internet, because this is someone who already is very aware of the problem and already very aware of who the companies are in this landscape. They're just looking for some more information and to be persuaded that you are better than what already exists. And that's the wide open door that you can capitalize on by following a really logical off-page SEO strategy that's driven by data, but actually driven by buyer behavior too. So how do LLMs actually build their answer? And a lot of agencies and a lot of people in general don't understand on the mechanical level of how the LLMs work. And it's not the same that it's just pulling from an index of web pages like Google, but instead LLMs are based off training data. And they've built that training data off a lot of responses, and as a result, Google has decided to rank websites, and the LLMs also have a good understanding of which pages and which domains are relevant for specific queries. But it's pulling from data that's saying these are the brands that are consistently mentioned and considered as consistently credible. And that's why Google as a separate search engine has really been drilling down on EEAT and really caring about expertise, authority, trust, and experience. So this is why it's important to have on-page credibility when you're talking about a specific topic, but you also build this EEAT through off-page SEO. And a lot of that is coming down to the authority signals where you're mentioned. That's why the relevancy of the backlinks you build is so important, but it's also about the semantics in which you are talked about and how your company is perceived. And that's why directories are important, reviews are important, and Reddit are important too. And these are off-page services. And essentially, this data is building like a database of how LLMs perceive your brands. And it's very similar to how like Google's going to perceive the brand. So in order to be mentioned in one of these bio prompts, or to be the response that has been given by a model like GPT 5.5 or whatever model, you need to be in that training data. And essentially it's about context and repetition. And if your brand is repeatedly mentioned in surfaces that appear to be topically relevant, then that's a good reason for you to be included in the responses too. So it doesn't matter what your domain rating is in Ahrefs, it's about whether you're actually physically visible in the context that matters. And this is so much harder to fake, because yes, you can build backlinks that are like a DR60 or a DR70 and you think, okay, these are good backlinks on paper, but the problem is if it's not topically relevant, then you're still not going to be in the buying set. So when people are searching for the specific prompt, you're not going to appear. So when you're asking your agency whether we appear in AI search, you're not necessarily just asking about whether you appear in AI search right now. You're asking, do you fundamentally understand the change in search behavior that's happening? And do you fundamentally realize that there is a shift in buyer behavior and that the same playbook we ran in 2018 can't work anymore? And it comes down to this: are we now doing work that is actively going to help us appear more in AI search over the next years? And most agencies aren't going to be able to articulate a good response to this, but the good ones can. And the good agencies are going to say, yeah, this is what we're working on, X, Y, and Z. So if you've got an agency like that, you're lucky. You should probably keep working with them, because I think a lot of agencies really are struggling to do this right now. A lot of agencies will have a good answer to the first three, but far fewer will have a good answer for the fourth. And because it's a newer topic, they haven't had time to rehearse it. But that gap tells you everything about whether your agency understands or does not understand the actual shifts of buyer behavior that are happening right now in 2026. The final three questions are the hardest ones to ask, but they are the most revealing. These are the three questions that massively differentiate and help you understand whether your agency is running a commodity SEO service, or they truly understand your ICP, they truly understand your go-to-market infrastructure, and that's going to make a huge difference. Question 5. Show me which of our pages are the pages that likely demonstrate whether we generate organic leads or whether they just drive traffic. This actually tests your agency's competence, and it shows whether they understand what actually is important to you. And the seventh and final question that you should be asking, and ideally the most important, is this: what does our monthly report actually tell us about potential pipeline impact rather than just traffic and keyword rankings? Look, by themselves, it's not an agency's job to increase your revenue. I think it can actually be pretty misleading as well if agencies are selling this promise of, okay, we can guarantee this number of leads, we can increase your revenue by X, but they should be working towards it. So in your reports, you want to see that they at least have a commercial understanding of how business works. So understanding things like meeting qualified leads, sales qualified leads, the number of demos booked. And of course, a lot of this data isn't going to be immediately accessible to them. So that's about you needing to work with them to understand, okay, which pages are going to drive demos, which pages are we working more on? But this conversation should at least be happening. More than likely, what you'll see in your agency report or in the conversations you're having with your agency is talk about, we're increasing domain rating, we've built X number of links, you now are ranking for this many more keywords. But by themselves, these are still vanity metrics. Is the agency reporting on what they did rather than the impact they produced? They're showing you the work, but not the outcome, and that's largely because the outcome is going to be harder to defend. But here is why it's not just the agency's fault. Look, this needs to be something that's understood and appreciated by all parties involved, whether that be your in-house team, your leadership team, your agency, and this needs to be a conversation that's happening amongst everyone. A good monthly report from a good agency and what good conversations look like is, how is the work we are doing actually influencing the pipeline? How many more leads are we seeing? How many more demos are we booking? And this is where it comes down to the intersection between strategy and conversation. Because the thing is here, the hard truth is that the CFO is going to find out eventually that money is effectively being wasted on SEO if it's not producing more organic inbound leads. And that's not a conversation, I think, as a CMO that you want to be having with your boss, or that as a head of marketing or the head of SEO you want to be having with your boss. So it's what you need to be doing in the meantime is what matters. And what that looks like from an SEO perspective is building a campaign that is actually having these metrics in mind. So every question you should be asking when you make an investment into SEO is, how is this going to impact organic lead flow? So it should be very focused on, these are the exact pages we're creating, these are the exact pages we're trying to rank, these backlinks are going to help because they're on this publication or this publication, and these are the publications that are getting referenced by AI. Of course, SEO is hard to attribute and hard to measure, but it's something where the ROI can be tremendous. So it's important to have these questions in mind and to understand this as being the core part of the strategy when you're working on the campaign. So a quick recap of the 7 questions. 1. What percentage of our links from publications our ICP actually reads? 2. Which commercial pages have their own links and not just the homepage? 3. Are we ranking for keywords where buyers are evaluating or simply just learning? 4. How does our brand show up in AI? 5. Which organic landing pages actually generate demo requests? 6. Where are competitors showing up in AI search that we aren't? 7. What does your monthly report tell us about pipeline? Print out them questions, send them to your agency, And pay attention to the ones that are going to make them feel uncomfortable, and that can give you a really good answer. Here's the truth. A good SEO agency is going to be able to answer all of these questions confidently and with a real strategy and intent behind the answers. If they can't, or if their answers are connected to vague SEO metrics, or they're trying to over-explain, that likely tells you another story, and you are simply overpaying. The wrong SEO strategy is really dangerous because it often takes a while to realize it's going wrong, and by that point you can have spent a lot of money. But the harm of a bad SEO strategy isn't lost deals, it's the invisible pipeline that never entered the CRM, and the flat CRM from organic, from inbound, is the result of an SEO strategy that isn't effective. Hey, if this resonates, subscribe. This is what I cover, everything related to SaaS marketing and SEO. This content is really for SaaS marketing teams who want to drive organic pipeline and not just traffic. And if you want us to run your own keyword mix, link profile through our SEO system, then we have an option to book a call in the description below and in the comments. Simply a 15 to 30-minute call, depending how many questions, and at worst you'll walk away with actual impactful things you can take away and do, rather than just fanciful ideas. Cheers. Thank you.